The overnight exchange of the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages and hundreds of jailed Palestinians was the last act in Phase 1 of the Gaza ceasefire. But the ceasefire, which is due to enter Phase 2 this weekend, has not stopped the deaths of babies and children. The cold and the lack of shelter now is killing them. 6 babies in the past fortnight, each death as distressing as the last, as we are about to see.
Babies as fragile as the ceasefire they were born into. Underweight because their mothers were undernourished, but that's not why they're here. Little Youssef was coping, even in a tent, until the weather got cold, and so did he. Hypothermia has left him in a critical condition.
I keep bringing him back to the hospital, desperate to save him. Why can't they provide us with power or heating to keep our babies warm? I see death hovering over him every day. His father and I spend our nights crying, trying to keep him alive. I don't know how to take care of him anymore.
Having endured 16 months of war, peace has brought one of the bitterest winters in years, with heavy rain destroying makeshift shelters. There is so much destruction. Almost 2 million people are now without a roof over their heads. Few even have the clothing to cope. Imagine navigating this in flip-flops, slippers, or nothing at all. What's barely endurable in daylight becomes impossible at night, especially if you're little.
We are unable to cover them and care for them. Fuel and gas are scarce, no electricity, no central heating, of course. There's literally nothing to warm these kids, even blankets are limited.
That lack of shelter is costing the most vulnerable their lives. Sham al-Shambari is one of 6 babies to have died of cold over the past fortnight, according to the UN. She was never short of love, but it wasn't enough to keep her heart beating. The 2-month-old was taken to the same hospital as baby Youssef, but couldn't be saved. Although tents have arrived, the UN says it's less than a quarter of the 200,000 promised by this weekend under the ceasefire agreement. Israel disputes this and points out that the food needed is getting through, but nothing feels permanent.
It is very fragile. We need to make sure that it's being sustained because the situation remains very dire. Most of the population in Gaza are living still in rubbles. Tents are coming, but the flow of assistance needs to be sustained.
Mercifully, for every parent trying to keep a child warm, there is better weather coming. But the future of these children depends on the ceasefire holding, and the forecast there is not as healthy. Rachel Younger, News at 10.
We're joined now by John in Tel Aviv, and the bleakest of pictures there from Gaza. And as Rachel was saying, a deeply challenging moment for the ceasefire. Is there any chance it does not move to its second phase? Where are we at with that?
Yes, I'm afraid there is, Julie. The first phase comes to an end on Saturday. Negotiations are underway in Cairo to try to prolong the truce, and I think at the very least both sides will agree to extending phase 1. The Israelis because they want to see more hostages released, and Hamas because they want Gazans to have a quiet Ramadan. Ramadan begins tomorrow night. But the extension of phase 1 is not the same thing as implementing phase 2. And serious negotiations on phase 2 that were supposed to start a fortnight ago have not started, and that's a worrying sign. Phase 2 envisages a permanent ceasefire, Julie, but there's no way the Israelis are going to sign up to that if Hamas remain in control of the Gaza Strip. And with that in mind, the Americans, the Arab nations, and to some extent the Palestinian Authority are working on a plan, a roadmap that would see Hamas relinquish all political and military power in Gaza. And I think that's the only way there's going to be a permanent ceasefire. There's no way this Israeli government will agree to end this war if Hamas remain in control in Gaza in any shape or form.